Okay, we should be live in just a few seconds if we're not already. Every time, Zoom, Facebook, if you're listening, please help with this syncing situation. Okay, I believe we are good to go. So, hello and happy Monday, guys. Welcome to episode number 40 of Change School TV, our weekly dose of inspiration for your Monday mojo and mindset reset for the week ahead. Now, tonight we have Nemo Ashong on the show as part of our Humans of Change series. I'm so pumped to introduce Nemo to those of you who are joining us live tonight, and that's for three reasons I'm going to share right now. So one is because he has a super awesome, amazing, inspiring story of change to share about his journey from pleaser to leader, and all the valuable lessons he's learned along the way about being seen and heard for who you are in order to create opportunities for change. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is because next week, Nemo is going to be putting me on the other side of the table as part of our Change Expert series, and he's going to be asking a few questions, which I won't spoil right now, but tune in for that next week. And reason number three is that from September onwards, Nemo is going to be hosting Change School TV's very first collaborated series, which he's going to share more about in just a moment. So lots of excitement all around. And Nemo, thank you for being here.
It is an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Look, the day has arrived.
I know. I was telling you, right? The last few hours, I've just been like so excited for this to happen, and we've been planning it. So here we are. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so I know some folks will just be jumping in to join us now, and as they do, just to let you guys know again that tonight's topic is all around the journey from pleasing to leading, and Nemo's going to share all about that. And before we dive into our deep and meaningful, Nemo, I'm going to briefly introduce you.
Sounds great.
And then I'm going to pass you the floor. Okay, so Nemo is on a mission to bring together a truly inclusive and empowered world. He brings this to life as the founder and coach of Empjoyment and the pioneer leader of the World Joy movement. So he's dedicated his life to helping people celebrate and value who they truly are so they can lead themselves and others powerfully. Prior to starting Empjoyment, Nemo worked for the ad tech company AppNexus in New York City, where he focused on global community engagement, company culture, and diversity and inclusion. His initial foray into people-related possibility creation began at Deloitte Consulting in their total rewards actuarial practice. Wow, I am really tongue twisting myself here. And in Nemo's spare time, he's an avid singer of tight harmonies, most recently in the barbershop style of 4-part harmony, and building his skills in hip hop and urban dance. How did I do, Nemo?
I think you did fantastically well. Yeah. I looked at that. I'm like, oh, I gave her some tongue twisters in the middle of that one there.
I did my best. I'm practicing my reading and speaking skills tonight.
That was fantastic. I'm looking at that. I'm like, okay, all right.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks again. I'm so excited to have you on tonight. I'm so excited for everything you're going to share. And as always, I think the best way to kick off is for you to share a little bit about the work you're currently doing, what you're working on. Tell us about Empjoyment and what's the mission behind it.
Yeah, most definitely. So thanks for that. This one here, I'll try and have a little bit less of the tongue ties in there. So I am on a mission right now. My mission is to bring together a truly inclusive and empowered world. And it's really fun. It's really fun to say that because when I started to figure out what my mission was, people came back and were like, so when you say true inclusion, what do you mean by that? Yeah. So where it really sits for me is to really break it down. It's just to come from a place of celebrating and valuing the things that make us different. So at the core of who I am and the core of everything that I do, it's all about this celebration, all about being able to value what makes us different. And that's because I have like 4 really core values. One of them, joy. Like it
Love
drives me. It's where I go, you know? So I follow joy wherever I can. Possibility, inclusion, and authenticity.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that mission really came as a way of being able to encapsulate all of that. And something that I feel that because I found even when I didn't have the words for it, I was still working towards it.
Yeah.
I knew that, you know, I feel like this is something I can live in for a very long time. And that's something that's important to me because I am someone that is pretty fluid in terms of like what really excites me. And so to have a large enough container, a mission where it might look like different things on different days or different things in different times of my life, but still working towards something that on an overarching basis still makes sense. I'm really excited for that. Yeah. So let me
Yo, go ahead.
Let me break it down to what I do right now.
Yeah.
So what I do on a daily basis is I actually work as a movement leader, and my movement is really around spreading this mission and spreading joy and helping people really celebrate and value what makes them different, what makes them unique, what their unique strengths and gifts are, so that they can go ahead and offer that to the world. It's just something that has become really important to me. And I found that the best way for me to lead that movement at this current moment is to spend time one-on-one with people coaching and working with various groups and communities to help bring forth a place that's a lot more vulnerable, a lot more open, a lot more real, and really get to not just human connections, but human relationships. Because I was finding that the number one barrier to being celebrated and being valued was authenticity and inclusion.
Absolutely.
Am I actually showing up as I am so that I can be celebrated and valued for that? And then am I in a place where others recognize that and say, hey, we want to celebrate you. We want to value you. Thank you for being here. Let's go do something.
I love that. And it's so, I think it's such powerful and important work. And I think that I know this is Singapore's relatively new as a market for you, and it's so diverse, and there's so much, I think, need for that in this space. And so it's so good that you're bringing that forward. I love that it's driven by joy and enjoyment. I think especially, even at the Change School, we see, unfortunately, a lack of that inside our careers, right? For a lot of us. And so I think that's really beautiful. And that you're living and breathing it as well.
Yeah, I will say it's very interesting because the name of the business, Empjoyment, came one day from, I was meditating and 3 words came to mind: empowerment, enjoyment, employment. So it was very much at the very beginning around like, how do you find joy through the work that you do? Which is why I'm so happy we're having this conversation. It's like, great, let's get to it.
I love it. And I mean, could you maybe just share, I'm just curious as well, like share a bit about like the types of clients and people that you work with. I mean, how do they kind of approach you? Is it from a space of, I'm really unhappy, or I just want to bring more joy into my life, or I'm not feeling true to myself in my work? Yeah.
Thank you for asking that. To tell you the truth, it has changed. It has changed for me. And I think the biggest change has been the way that I enter it. And what I mean by that is that I no longer have people finding me, and I'm no longer attracting, but I'm actually creating my clients. It's something that's really fun, but I create them. And what I mean by that is that it really starts with the way that I show up in conversations. A lot of what I do is, our business is built primarily through invitation and referral only. And so that's it. We're having conversations and I open the door, and I like to see, I have a filter for people and say that to really say, like, are you up for this here? Are you ready to make a change? Are you tired of settling for what you have? I will say there are a number of different external things that my clients have accomplished. And just to keep things simple here, I refer to my clients as pioneers. So my pioneers have done. But I think the real, it's cool. They're off running for a public office. They used to be executives at startups. They're building out regional work here in APAC. They're people who have been professionals that are also creative, and they're like, how do I find the time for all of this here?
Yeah.
So it's actually gone across the spectrum. But what I would say is that the part of it that really matters, at least that really matters to me, is that they're multi-talented, multi-passionate people. They're the people that yes, we are like the jack of all trades, and we're really good at it.
Yeah.
And so that's really a common thread that comes by there. And it's just like, okay, how can we help you own all of that? How can we help you be all of that throughout there? So
I love it. And I think it's so important, especially as I'm sure you know, right? Just seeing what's happening in the employment marketplace, globally right now, right? We're moving towards these portfolio careers. People are increasingly, I think, recognizing and embracing the fact that I have multiple interests, I have multiple talents, I have multiple abilities and possibilities. And how do I kind of bring it together in order to thrive, right?
Yeah.
So that's amazing that you're enabling and empowering them to do that.
And I appreciate that you said in order to thrive. I think sometimes we set our sights just a little bit too low, and it's like 4 inches lower than like where it needs to be. It's like in order to cope, in order to survive.
Exactly.
Yes. So I hear you're speaking my language. In order to thrive, and I think it's very interesting because it's hard work no matter what. Well, not always. It can be easy work. But let's say this. It can be smart work no matter what.
Exactly.
But based on, I see people get exactly what they ask for. Well, and it's very funny. I'll tell my pioneers, I'm like, hold on, be careful, because I have a track record of getting people exactly what they ask for.
Yeah.
So
be careful with them wishes.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So that's what's bringing me joy nowadays. That's how I get to spend my time.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's been a fun journey up here.
I'm sure. And, on that, we have such a great topic for today, which you raised and suggested, and I think it's brilliant. And I'm sure that part of your journey to this beautiful space of, employment, enjoyment, right, is this journey of moving from pleasing to leading, right? And so I'm super interested. I mean, part of why I love this title so much is, it's even something I can resonate with personally, right? And I think a lot of people who are watching today probably can resonate on some level with this, very natural tendency. And for a lot of us, it can happen to anyone, right? We kind of get into a place where we are always trying to appease or to please, and along the way somehow losing sight of what it is we really want, right? So I'm super excited. Walk us through, I know you've got lots to share, so I'm just going to throw out this open-ended question. Walk us through this journey of yours. And what I'm really keen to know as well is when you realized that it was a journey of moving from pleasing to leading, right? Because the beauty of hindsight is always when we look back. So tell us all your juice.
Yes. I absolutely will. And I'm very curious if there is this one point where that transition took place. We'll see here, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I should start this off here with just being real. So it turns out that my number one fear in the world is being alone. And it's something that I hadn't really realized until like the last few years. But it had been something that had been driving me for a while. And when I really think about my story, it really started back out in high school. And from at that point there, I grew up in a town that was right outside of Philadelphia. I was African American. My parents were African. They came from Ghana. And just to be real, there it was just really hard to find my place out there. And I would say in the scheme of who I was. And what really, really, really sticks out to me was this one moment where I was in a social studies class. So I guess it's like the study of cultures globally. And we got back this test, and the person in front of me turns around and grabs my test off of my desk after it's been graded and everything. They come on, they see the grade on there. It was an A. It was good. It wasn't great. It wasn't perfect, but they grab it and they take it and they're like, I can't believe Niyama, because that's what I was at that time. I can't believe Niyama, you got this score here. Like, I worked so hard and I didn't even get anything like that. And it was just like, it was a scene. It was a scene. And it was really interesting because in that moment, I realized something very important. I realized that if I'm successful, I make other people feel bad. If I'm successful, I'm going to push other people away. Mm. And without having notice of the fear at that time, if I'm successful, I'm going to be alone.
Right.
And so that started playing out in just very weird ways in my life. Essentially, there was this like roller coaster that I kept finding myself. If success was right here and like failure was right here, I would get just on the edge of either one of them and just keep going back and forth. So it's like I couldn't be too successful, but when I'm failing, I couldn't allow that to happen either. So this whole back and forth there. And it's very interesting because like when I really think about it, my story is a story of belonging, right? I just wanted to belong, I was African American, but I wasn't Black, and I couldn't really like make it all come together. And then even when I did well on my own, like it just didn't seem to fit, I went to Cornell, and when I found out, we were talking about this in our senior year of our high school, and there were a group of people, we were all just sitting around, and a group of people were just talking about what's coming up next. And someone mentioned, and I don't know like how I heard it, like my brain did this weird thing and it heard it. And it was just like, can you believe that out of all of us, Niyama's the only one that got into an Ivy League school. And I remember hearing that, and it just like, yeah, I just like, oh yeah, here goes the thing. In my mind, in that moment, knowing the roller coaster and everything, so it made sense to me. It's like, well, how did this happen to me? Who am I to do this here? I didn't really deserve it. I didn't work as hard as everyone else because for the last few years, I've been trying specifically to shrink and hide.
Yeah.
I wanted to fit in, and I wanted to have my places out there. So that led me to going off to college. And for the first 2 years there, I mean, since I knew that I didn't really belong there, all I needed to do was just get my diploma and leave, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as long as I got my diploma, it was all good. So I spent the first 2 years just going out there, meeting new people, making as many friends as possible. I was not going to be alone. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about like this is where I feel like some of my people pleasing skills really went to like the next level. Right. I learned how to really be a part of a lot of different groups, from music to fraternity. I'm just a part of it all. This is where the multi-talented, multi-passionate part comes in my story. And it was good for 2 years. That was what I was doing. And on September 6, 2006, I got an email from our financial aid office saying that my financial aid for the year had been denied. And when I talked to my parents, they're like, we're not going to be able to make this come to life. If without this here, there's nothing else for you. You're going to have to come home. Oh, wow. To this day, I can still feel it. It was a really difficult place to be, right? Where it's like, I knew that I didn't really deserve to be there, as I was reminded back in high school. I met a whole lot of friends, but if I didn't have the diploma, if I didn't graduate, were they going to stay with me or not?
Right.
And basically it was like, what do I have to show for this year? And I was really fortunate. That a family member came in to help like make this possible for me to stay there, but it did start to change things for me. And that was when I started saying, okay, hold on. Like I need to be at least like the success needs to go beyond this. Yeah. And that led to a shift in me. And I don't know if the shift is as relevant to the story. So I'm going to go to what happened next. Like I got that at the end of it all, I got a job working for a Big Four consulting company doing actuarial work. And it's so weird. But like, for the longest time, honestly, until about like a year ago, I had this like dirty little secret in the back of my mind, because the there was a 3-day intensive, like, they called it a blitz, where you were interviewed with all these other people. So I was there for 3 days going, different types of like interviews, different types of things going on.
Yeah.
And for some reason, one person makes a comment, and I remember one person makes a comment the night before when we were kind of like cramming and reviewing. I remember going and mentioning it during the conversation, like sometime in the interview. And then when I got the role, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, I only got the role because I happened to stay up, do the crab session. This person said it, and I repeated it. Has nothing to do with me. And I think that's like, it's just I say that it's weird because it's like, I think it goes back to this roller coaster, this thing about like, hey, because I made a decision not to be successful, I stopped being able to actually accept like when I was the cause of my own change, when I was the cause of my own success.
Yeah.
And it just really, it just wasn't great. I was doing great things, but it just wasn't great.
Yeah. And I think, if I can just jump in, I mean, I think I'm just so deeply listening to your story because I resonate so much with it. And I mean, there's just so much in there, and I'm like, Selena, don't jump in and take over the conversation. Let him go.
Please
but
don't,
I mean, I think, one is that low moment, and thank you for sharing that, very honestly, because I think when those are the types of stories that really deeply impact us and our inner narrative and our attitude and how we see the possibilities for ourselves to be able to thrive, right? But we hold that narrative in, and when we're unable to share it or we feel we have to hide it, right, that automatically blocks us from shining, from being able to be successful, So I totally connect with that kind of feeling. And then the flip side of it is that when we go through those moments, it's like rising from the ashes, right? So like you go through that hardship and you almost have to be pushed to that point to go, at some point you've got to change the script, right? Rewrite the story and take those pieces and turn it into your strength, which is exactly, I think, that turning point that you've just shared. So, I think it's brilliant. I mean, sorry, I'm just like, please keep going. I'm listening.
Yeah. Don't be sorry. Please jump in more. Just because, how do I say it? It's fun for me to tell my story, but I want to make sure that we're pulling out the things that are important to everyone.
No, absolutely. No, I think it's great. And I mean, I even with the interview side, like I've done that, the whole circuit round of interviews, and it's not easy at all, and I know that it's true. There is such a roller coaster of emotions that go through there as you kind of, especially if you're battling this idea of, how do I find belonging, right? And where do I belong, and what is the right way to show up? Is it as me or as what best fits this setting? And then how do you find that balance, right? Yeah. So how did you find the balance?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that's been interesting for me because I'll be real. For a very long time, I've been the outsider. I actually think that I work better in groups where I'm either the one or the only. Right. And it's been a recent thing where I'm like, oh, wait, I actually go out and I search for these groups because there's no way to be. There's no one else to compare me to. Like, that's a lot of how I found my place of belonging there. And it was really interesting. So I was working as an actuarial consultant, taking exams. There's a huge exam process that goes on for years. And it's really rewarding for those where it's the right fit. But I knew for me, it was not it. I was always like, I'm an actuary plus. I can do this and I can do that. And, over a period of time, it really came to the point of like, hey, I have this vision of musical chairs in my mind. And I started working with some people who were interested in becoming actuaries because that was like my first foray into exploring and going beyond and saying, okay, I'm really interested in learning development. I've been doing a lot of things with it. Why is this actuarial exam process so difficult? And why is it that if everyone has the same, please.
No, sorry, I'm just going to jump in because I'm just wondering, I don't know if everybody who's watching knows what an actuary is. So maybe you break that down. I just thought of that. I was like, I wonder if everybody knows what that is. Yeah. Thank
you for making sure I'm parity. So the way I describe an actuary, I think about them, they put a price on risk. And so the way that this works, you'll typically see them in insurance. So they're the reason why you'll pay a certain amount of dollars for, apartment insurance or for the car and auto and things like that. But they take a series of different factors and they use that to project out for future payments.
Yeah.
In order to do that, they you get credentialed through the process of taking different exams.
Right.
And so what I'm discussing here is like the credentialing process.
Sure.
And it took it's wild. It took somewhere between like 4 and 10 years for people to become credentialed. And I'm like, why is that?
Yeah.
Especially given the fact that we all had the same materials. So to me, I was like, it's not about the information. It's about the application of it. So people are doing different things. And that got me thinking, okay, I'm going to start helping other people to become actuaries. And what happened through that is that I started talking to people who were really passionate about it. Like they knew they had been in hospitality beforehand. They had been in all these other careers, and they're like, how do I become an actuary? That's really what I want.
Right.
And this picture of like musical chairs came to mind. So it was like, I saw it. I was like, oh wait, I was playing a game of musical chairs, and that was like where my life could be. I could sit in any chair at any time, and I could run around, and the music's playing, and then something turned off, At some point, something turned off. For me, it was like, okay, I graduated and I had to go to school or had to get a job afterwards. But like for others, it might be, when something changes in their family, when they lose a job, when they're like, all right, I really need to make this change come to life. Like something turns off and the music turns off. And I just pictured myself like run into the nearest seat. And then I sat in it for years. And there are people on the outside that are just like, is the music going to come back on? Because I'm sitting in this other seat that's not that uncomfortable. It's a wicker chair. And I just want to I just wish I knew how to get into the seat you're sitting in.
Right.
And that was actually probably the biggest catalyst for me, like starting to look at what I was doing differently. Sure. Starting to realize that like, wait a minute, the role that I'm in right now, the seat that I'm sitting in, is a seat that so many other people might actually want to be in. And the worst part about this all is that I wanted to do learning and development. I'm like, there's probably some person in learning and development that wants to be an actuary. and like, we're both in each other's seats.
The grass is always greener.
Yes. Yeah. So that became a big thing for me to turn the music back on and to start moving out of the actuarial world into tech and learning and development, which sounds really awesome. And it was for me because I was like, yes, I finally got it. And I told my parents and they're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? they're like, you work at a great company.
Yeah.
You have a great job. You've been there for years and you've invested in becoming an actuary, finish your credentialing first. Once you finish your credentials, then go off and pursue this thing. Yeah.
That's always not always, but a lot of us, I think, hear that rap from the parents, right? I mean, that's usually what, the response is. Same when I went to mom and I was like, change school. She's like, what about just stability, security? I was like, that'll come.
That will come. And it's interesting, like on that security, stability, I have a thing that I look at. I see security and freedom as being two sides of the same coin. And so for me, I'm like, the most security that I can have is to have the freedom to basically generate my own income. And so I look at them as actually two sides of the same thing there. But that was a big one. That was probably one of the bigger tests on the pleaser to leader portion there. Cause I was up until then I was like, what do you need to be? I'm the good son. I've done all the right things. And I'm still I'm a unique person. I've always been that. I cannot hide that. But I just grew up in a way where I wanted to be a people pleaser, to remain humble and to do the things that my parent had asked of me. So at that crossroads, that was when I first started seeing the rubber hit the road, so to say.
And how did you? What was the response to mom and dad? How did you navigate that?
Yeah. Okay. Let's break that down. So a few things happened. I was the firstborn, so I think I was used to being the first to do a lot of different things. I think that that was helpful.
Right.
Not a prerequisite, but I think it's one of the reasons that internally allowed me to do it. But one of the major areas there was this. I knew that I didn't want to be an actuary. I knew that I would never like really be an actuary. And I have one of my core strengths based on Strength Finders is maximizer. I'm not very good with like just settle in for good. It needs to be great, excellent, exceptional, outstanding, awesome. I have so many different words for like that higher stratosphere, like it can't be good. Because it's that 4-inch difference, right? And so the conversation really came down to, it was not a comfortable one, but it was one where we did get to a place where I was like, this as an adult, I need to make this move. And I could be a good actuary. I will never be a great one. And I have the opportunity to have greatness. And I want that. And I think that this is, and when I think my parents are going to watch this, I think it's going to be funny. But I'm like, this is what they were raising me for. They were raising me to be this person. So now let's open up those doors. And it's funny. They're like, you want to be able to, if you get the credentials, you can always come back to being an actuary. And I remember talking to my mom, I was like, oh, I don't think you get it. There's no coming back. There's no coming back.
So we can say that for now, so everyone can feel good about it.
Oh no, I had to actually close that one off. I had to burn it. I'm like,
you were just like, done. No.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Yeah, because if I left it open, they would still be asking me about it. They're like, so when are you going to go back and get it? Yes.
All right. So that was sort of like, I guess, I won't say barrier, but like, okay, like potential barrier number one, right?
Yeah.
Jumped over that one.
Yeah.
So how did you make the shift then into tech and training?
Yeah.
Because were you worried about like how to position yourself from being an actuary into that? So how did you navigate that piece?
Yeah. I'll tell you how I navigated it. You asked me if I was worried about it. I honestly don't think I was. And that's a really fun part. Part. So let me see why. Part of the reason for this is that I already consider myself an actuary plus. So this was now me using the plus side. I was now learning and development plus I can do all the computational stuff if you need it, So if I just flipped it around. I had also interviewed at different places, just different opportunities that had come up. So I had interviewed and gone through a job process for completely non-actuarial roles in the past. So, and had gotten offers. So I also, in just kind of colloquial terms, I knew my worth, but being more specific about it, it's like, I knew that that this was not the one and only option for me, but I didn't just know it from like I put myself out there, and found that coming in. Let's see here. The other part of it, the transition there was actually really interesting. So just to be real, because I have a thing of one of my agreements that I set with people is that I hide nothing to hold nothing back. We didn't set that agreement, but I just choose to live my life that way. And unfortunately, this thought came up, and I can't just use it whenever I want to be flattering myself. So to be real, there was like, it was time for me to leave. I could feel it was time for me to leave, and there were some things that were going on at work where it's like, why is this person wearing a suit into this other place over here? So there's it was like, oh, this is probably going to happen some way, shape, or form. Something's going to change. I think we're on that path. And a friend of mine sent out a message. I sang in a barbershop chorus. It was Voices of Gotham in New York City, and a friend of mine sent a message out there. And it was kind of serendipity because we don't typically send personal or professional messages. It's all chorus business. And I said, my company's hiring. And I saw a role at a tech company in learning and development doing exactly what I wanted to do, knowledge sharing. Really just bringing people together from all over the organization around communities of practice where people had various, they were working on similar types of activities or similar types of roles across the organization and different functions and different things. And what was interesting to me there is that I feel that my process of going through that was completely different than what most other people would do. So my background for, do you have a question?
I was going to say, do you mean your process inside the role, or do you mean the process into getting in?
My process into getting into it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I was happy, like my friend gave me a referral that helped things out there.
Right.
But what ended up happening was that first I just completely redid my resume to speak to that role. And it was just really, it was a narrative. I was like, if you only read 4 things, like I do learning and development, I do sales, and this, I have recruiting experience, and I also do forecasting and modeling. And it's interesting because it's like out of my it was a story that was true to me.
Right.
I had always been doing this kind of work, but just in different areas. Sure. So just being able to own that story and really own every single part of what I had done, both in the professional standpoint with what I was doing with the business that I was building on the side, and then the nonprofit world where I was sitting on the board for multiple years, building out the membership of that Voices of Gotham barbershop chorus. All of that was relevant for me. And it was all this examples of what I was doing. And literally it came up in a conversation. They're like, how did you make this change from actuary to learning and development? Like, I just don't get it. Yeah. I'm like, literally everything that I've been doing up until this point has been this role. Exactly. I just want to do it all the time and get paid for it.
I love it. I'm so happy you're bringing this up, I'm so happy in the way you're framing this part of the story, because one is it's actually just making me think about a conversation I was having with one of our career shifters earlier this afternoon, who we were having a bit of a dialogue around, like, okay, what is positioning all about, right? If you're someone that has extensive experience across varied sectors or fields or areas, right? And this person was sharing that a lot of the response he's been getting sometimes is that, like, oh, you're overqualified, or it's not making sense, right? Mm-hmm. And I was sharing that, it's kind of like what you were saying, like, whatever it is you are a plus, right? So the transition is about honing in on the plus. And then you kind of need that clarity within yourself to go, okay, what could all those pluses look like in a way that's meaningful and true to you, right? And then how do you tell that story through your narrative? So everything you're saying is just so aligned, I think. We have this sort of synergistic way, I think, of looking at how to navigate change and transition. So I love what you're saying right now and how you're living proof that it actually can work that way, right? And it's all about telling your true story. Nothing you said was made up, right?
Nothing was. And I think that's that's part of why we're comfortable navigating change, because there are certain things that you can do to help make a change, regardless of what that looks like.
Exactly.
A lot easier. I think a big part of it is owning your story. Yes. Is owning every one of those experiences. I remember, like, actually getting seeing the role and going through, copying it into Word and trying to read between the lines on every single thing that they had there. Exactly. And I was like, okay, so what would you need if you're going to have to like get a company-wide initiative across? What would that mean? Okay, well, I need to get like different stakeholders, and who would they be? And where are times where I've gotten various stakeholders together? I've clearly never done this job. Yeah. So where are times that I've done the things that are necessary to be there,
Exactly. And that's why, something we always tell our students as well when they're trying to like adapt or tweak their CVs, we're like, I always look at it, it's like you're being given an exam or a written assignment, but all the clues are given to you inside the JD, right? Like, all you have to do is find them, right? And then, just like you said, I love how you really like fleshed out the process, right? Is then going, okay, based on what their needs are or what it is they're trying to do, how do you then kind of take that empathy hat, right? And go, okay, well, what would they need inside the organization? What type of person? What personality? What characteristics? What strengths, right? And then which parts do you have that you bring forward, right?
To me, that's it.
Right?
And from that place, I mean, we were even talking about here very early here when you said, like, there are things in this conversation that resonate with you, right? You haven't lived my life. And yet at the same time, we're speaking on a level of that resonates across. And I think that that's the thing. It's like, it really, I was fortunate because of those past experiences to like seeing that it really wasn't about the role. In fact, in tech, like I got a job. 2 weeks later, my direct manager left, and my new manager had we had to figure out what it was, So it was just like, it wasn't about, can I check all the boxes?
Yes.
It was more about who I was being.
Right.
Who I was being. And the first part of that was, do I own me?
Yes.
Do I own my plus?
Yep.
Or
exactly.
not?
And like you said, knowing your value, right? Like that's something I think, like you said, why it never really occurred to you to even be concerned about making the switch is because you knew your worth. And I think it was something else, that we also share a lot of is trying to get those small wins, right? Putting yourself out there, getting those interviews, whether they materialize into a job or not, but it's also just, again, reinforcing that positive narrative and allowing yourself to see that, yeah, okay, I could get that job. Maybe I don't want that job, or they wanted to offer me something and that's not quite ticking my boxes, right?
Yeah.
So,
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh.
I mean, what about my boxes?
Yes. And so just to riff off on this here, is like, this one came because it was the job that I wanted. Right. But I had gotten other offers beforehand. I'd done other things beforehand. And so even if it was the first thing that I was going for, I think that being able to, I'm someone that looks at the core things. I take things off of what it presents off at the surface, and I go a couple layers deeper. And so when I think just even the stories I shared earlier, oh wait, so I don't want to say this, but I'll say it. I have this we talk about narratives. I had this sentence in my mind that keeps going on, which is, I'm not supposed to be here. I am not supposed to be here. And so there were constantly places where I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm the one and the only. How did I do this? I'm some guy from Pennsauken. What happened? I am not supposed to be here. And people, sometimes people would remind me, or I would hear things. And then one day it was like, but yet I am. Yeah. Clearly I'm doing something right. I'm not, maybe I am supposed to be here. So yeah, I mean, do you mind if I share just two other really quick things around the transition portion?
Yeah.
I just think it might be helpful to the other humans.
Totally. Yeah.
So the first part there, I think, was really about owning my story and just being like, all right, boom, this is it. And I'm telling my story. I'm not going to leave it. I'm not leaving it up to you to try and interpret what my story is. This is it. Right. I am a professional in learning and development in multiple ways. And this is just what I do. And so that was the first part of it. The second part that was really interesting was, how do I say it? Rather than it being a thing that I was trying to get to, it was a place that I was coming from. I talk about this a lot, where it's like, all right, if I'm over here and I'm trying to get over here, a lot of times we're like, how do I get here? What are the steps there? I didn't know this at the time. I didn't have this language. I didn't have this awareness at the time. But instead of me trying to get to this future goal, I actually brought myself from that place and walked from there. And so what that led to was that it led me doing things very differently. I entered the entire interview process as though I was someone who was a knowledge sharing manager, as someone who would be bringing people together across and creating a community in a way that goes beyond just the physical office, but has to cross time zones, cross rivers, cross continents. And so one of the things I did, and I'm going to caveat this from the very beginning here, because I think people, sometimes it seems like, oh yeah, I just have to do this. That's not the case. Right. What it is that in order to be the person who was already getting the role so that they could see me doing it, I just did it. So I was like, well, how would I, as a knowledge sharing manager with someone who has with a company that has offices in multiple continents, create community, create belonging, create trust? So I sent everyone a video afterwards. That's my thing. It's so easy for me to make a video. I just do it, Yeah. And so I did. And I remember when someone was leaving, it's like, to this day, I've never had someone send me a video. Thank you. And I was like, that's cool. That literally took me 1 minute and 46 seconds because YouTube said how long it took. Yeah.
Yeah, there to remind you.
Just
Yeah,
this
and
day.
that's you know what I mean. Sorry, I'm just gonna interrupt for a minute because it makes me think like that's how we met as well, right? I mean, the first time we were connected, and I even told you, right? Like all the emails we get in our inbox, and there's one email from Nemo with an attachment and this awesome video saying hi, and like in just such a meaningful, I think in a more meaningful way than any number of words in an email could, right? And having you show up and having you against the backdrop and the whole thing, right? Not that it was anything fancy, it was just where you were.
Yeah.
And that already said so much about, why we wanted to meet you the very next day, right? And connect. And I think you're absolutely right. Like it's finding your own signature, what makes sense for you. But even on that side, I think on a very practical level, the message that definitely we even share with our students, because we have them do videos just for practice. And we're like, why not include that in your profile? Why not have that as part of your job application process, right? Like, why not create something leveraging the tech that's available, the tools that's available to us today, to make and leave a lasting impression, right? Which is exactly what I'm sure all your videos do, because I watched one and I was like, yes, I want to meet this guy.
And I'm thrilled about that because now look where we are now.
Yeah, exactly.
Look where we are now. And it could have been an email that got lost, or, I think, we could have just taken a couple of weeks to schedule things, but it's just those small little shifts. Totally. And so I think like that's really important because like, thank you for reflecting that back. That's a great gift to me that you're sharing that. But it's these small little things that I think keep people from their actual possibilities. That's the 4 inches.
Yeah.
That's the 4 inches that I'm talking about,
Totally.
And the odd part is that I tried to write you an email. I actually tried 4 times to write you an email. And I was like, I just cannot convey what I want to get across through this text, and who would want to read it all afterwards? So I made you the video. It was easier for me.
Yeah.
It was uniquely me.
Totally.
It was unapologetically me. And it was something that like left something memorable for you. So like, especially as we go through change, I don't think we have to leave who we are behind. In fact, I did that. I found a video of me back in, I think it was 2014. The first time I made like video stuff like that. I posted it up the other day because I was like, I haven't thought about this, but I've just been doing this and I've been honing the skill over and over since then. The one last thing I'll say about this in terms of the interview process, because just in case there's some tactical things here that people can pull away with. I got called into a third day. So I had a phone screen, a full day interview, and then I had to do one more. I was like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. It's like, I thought I had it. And you know that moment in the interview when it shifts from like you're interviewing me to like, okay, how are you checking my boxes?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I had that moment. I was like, okay, we're good. Yeah. And then they called me in for a third day. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so with that one there, this one was actually really interesting. Again, coming from the place of, A, I don't know what to do, and owning that. Right. I'm like, what could we possibly do? Yeah. And B, coming in from a place of, okay, let me come from that place versus get there, right? If I already had this job, what would I be doing?
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly the thought that went through my mind. I was like, okay, I don't know what we're going to be talking about. I have no idea what other questions. I prepared for everything and answered everything through the job description. Yeah. What else, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what happened was that we had talked through a number of different scenarios with my potential manager and things like that. And so I just made up a plan. I made up a hypothetical scenario. I was like, let's say that like engineering wants to have this type of like community be built together and they want to get it done in 3 months. Like I just made like a 1-page Word doc. I found like a template of like question, 3 answers, question, 3 answers, like 3 bullets. And that was it. I literally had a back pocket. And we came into the meeting, and she asked my manager asked me like, so like, what would you want to discuss? And I was like, so I have this thing that I did. I was gonna bring it up if I needed to, but like I had this thing here. Maybe we can walk through it. And it was awesome because I then got a chance to experience what she was like as a manager. What types of questions did she ask? She got a chance to see like, hey, Nemo, how do you think about this stuff? And the actuary thing was not important,
right?
At that point, if anything, it helped me with my thinking process, how I approach problems, yes, incredibly important. I can break it down. I can go on, I can see it from multiple directions. And in math, there's more than one way to get to the cherry hole mall, my math teacher used to say. So it's like I'm going to get us there some way or another. But like, it was about owning all of who I was and coming from that place the entire time, coming from the place of I already have this role. I'm not holding back. Let's do this.
Totally. No, I mean, I can, and I'm sure you blew their socks off. I mean, because, you know, just even on a really practical level, it's like, put yourself in a hiring kind of role or a key company decision maker type of role. Like if someone walks in the door with a good head on their shoulders and comes to and takes enough steps forward to even go, hi, I've taken what your organization is trying to work on and what you're trying to do. I've thought about it. I've taken the time to kind of show you what bringing me into your organization to drive these things forward could look like. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? I mean, the fact that you took that time and demonstrated that effort, and I love the flip side. It's a win-win, right? Because like you said, you get a feel for what it would be like. Like, what's that even conversation like, right? How do they show appreciation? How do they push back if they don't like an idea, right? What is that whole dynamic like? And I think it's such a great tool and tip that you've just shared, because I think even with our students coming through, a lot of times it's like we get questions like, okay, how do you know if the company culture really is the culture they say they are? How do you know if you're going to actually like working there? How do you know if the manager, right? And so what you've just given is some gold for those of you watching live. I hope you're paying attention, because you just got some gold dished out from Nemo on how to nail those interviews. I love it. And the whole application process. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think I appreciate you calling out. I appreciate you synthesizing that there, because it appears like it's one thing, but what you just said there, like you got to the heart of what it actually is.
Yeah.
You know?
And yeah. And it's so, I mean, and it's all aligned, because I think there's the beauty of it, right? Like there's two sides of the coin. There's the practical side, and some people are just more practical minded, so that might resonate more. And there's other people who are, you know, probably on a different type of journey and also kind of trying to figure themselves out. How do I show up in the world, right? So there's both the mindset piece, and then there's the doing, right? The being and the doing. So I think that's where our jam is so complementary, you know?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I'm sitting, I'm like, strawberry, grape. Like, that's where my mind goes with this kind of stuff. Yeah.
I love it.
And I think it's important, bringing it back to the theme of pleaser versus pleaser to leader. I wouldn't have gotten that if I was trying to be a pleaser. As a pleaser, I would have tried to check all the boxes that they had out there, and I'm like, I would have been off. Right. As a pleaser, I would have, like, there were some things around like, okay, how do I prepare for this year? But like those conversations, it was me leading those experiences. And as a pleaser, it would have been like, no, generally speaking, the way that my resume should have is that it should talk only about my actuarial stuff.
Yeah.
Leave this nonprofit work that I do with my barbershop group out of it. Like, no, this is a story that I need to tell in order to own my story. This is like, oh no, I'm going to send an email afterwards. Like my complimentary, like here goes. I did send an email, but in there was the link, you know? And I'm like, this is how I show up. Well, no, you know, like I want to show that like I can really be a team player. So I'll just let them own whatever comes up next. No, I had something that was at least there to say, hey, like I can drive this forward. And it's those, it's funny because it's like oftentimes like that's what, it's the who you are being question that's way scarier than what do you know.
Exactly.
They can teach you all the what do you know.
All the things. Yeah, exactly.
They're like, who are you? Can I
come back to you on that?
Yeah. I know these skills, I know these things, and it's like it works. But I feel like it's a more powerful and more empowering way to go about things through a change like this. When you're owning it, when you're leading.
Absolutely. No, and that is actually the perfect segue to the question I want to throw out now, because I'm so excited for people to hear about it. So we have a little collab series coming up, right? Yes. Which is all about leading your change your way, right? Yes. And how to be unapologetically you. So
yes.
why don't you do a little unveiling and let our folks who are watching hear a little bit about what that's going to be all about.
Definitely. Hey y'all, like as you can see, I like to have fun, right? I have to be unapologetically myself, and that was not planned, but it felt right. Soul and Grace has given me a wonderful opportunity to share something that I'm really passionate about, and that's in helping people be unapologetically themselves as they go forth to create the changes that they want in their lives. Right. So you just heard here me telling the story, really focused on the career portion of it and how I was able to really own that. Well, what I've seen here is that there are people who are multi-talented, multi-passionate, people who are looking to make change and to drive that change as opposed to have change done to them. And what I found is that it ends up, when we get into this change area, we leave like this area. I have another mental picture in my mind. Like I see us like all on a beach. We're all on a beach at a certain point. Life is good. We know what's going on, generally speaking. And then something happens. And we know that we like the area we want to be is up ahead. But between the beach that we're on and the area we're trying to get to, there's this thick wilderness of like, I don't know. And this thick wilderness of people around me don't know, right? And if you're watching this, something I get about you is that you are someone who's had a track record of success. You're like someone who wants to own your change. You don't want change to take to own you going forward. And so Unapologetically You is really about helping you build the tools, navigate the frameworks, and really just have this access to a different way of thinking, a new paradigm to help you navigate that wilderness. Because no matter what the change looks like, if you're able to do it, bringing all of your experiences to the table, bringing all of who you are to the table, you're able to carve a path that is specifically right for you. The fun thing about what we're going to be doing with this series here is that we're going to be doing it together, and we're going to be finding different ways to carve that out there. So the next time I'll come out and I'll spend more time really setting up the stage. What does it mean to be unapologetically you? And we'll walk through the discover, embrace, and leverage framework to give you an opportunity to really see how that looks in. And then we'll be meeting on a regular basis and hopefully actually working with other humans of change on real life change, on real life things that have happened for them or where they are right then, and seeing how we can use the framework and different ways of thinking to be able to navigate that change powerfully and unapologetically.
Brilliant.
How does that work?
It's amazing. I'm like, do I get to? Oh yeah, I am going to be interviewed. Okay, awesome. I get in on the goodness.
Yes.
Well, guys, if you guys are watching, you just heard it from the horse's mouth, the source's mouth, and now you probably know why we are so excited for our very first collaborated series. And Nemo is going to own this space. He is here to help you guys start leading your change your way. And it's going to be practical. It's going to be inspirational. You've heard Nemo's journey. Now you know what you can expect and how he can sort of guide you through that process and through that journey. So Nemo, thank you so much for sharing all of this amazingness. And I'm so excited for our next month, right, is when you and I are on. And I'm going to be interviewed by Nemo. I'm so excited. And then we're going to kick off our series in September. So before we wrap up, I know you've got some stuff coming up to share as well, right? Do you want to throw that out?
Absolutely. Thank you very much there. So I want to let you all know about some things that are really interesting and really fun for me. The first one here is really something that came to mind shortly before this call that I wanted to give to you all as a gift. And what it was, I just made a video, surprise. But I made a video and in that video it talks about one of the tools that I've learned since that experience, really about about how do I create the space to be me? I have a lot of personality. I have a lot of energy. There's a lot to me. I used to shrink, hide, and feel bad about that. I used to, because again, if I was successful, if I was big, other people would be alienated and I would be alone. So I wanted to share one of the tools that I have out there, which is all about creating agreements, creating powerful agreements. And so it's a video that I recorded. I share some of my agreements. I share some of how it showed up for me in the world, and give you an opportunity to also navigate that. So if you're interested in that, you can just go to empjoyment.com. That's empjoyment.com/CSTV. Trying to keep it simple. I'm sure we'll leave a link somewhere for it too.
Yeah, we will. We'll post it in the comments right after this.
Awesome. I wanted to provide some resources I wasn't sure where this conversation would go. And I'm like, this is something that I think you can walk away with, start implementing, and then come in next month when we talk, having tried it. And then come into those conversations, come into with something for us to build off of. Because I'm a human of change. I'm with y'all on this. Yeah. Like this is like we are in this together. So let's make use of that.
Thank you for that, Nemo. That's awesome. I love that you're giving these guys something, they can really take with them into the week ahead. That's what we're all about. So let's share those links in the comments right after.
Perfect.
And I love it. I think it'll be so good. And hopefully we'll see everyone next month.
Do you mind if I add one thing to this?
Yeah, go for it.
We're now entering the month of August. So one of the things that I am done, like this is something that just came to mind a couple of weeks ago, but it's something I feel really passionate about. One of the ways to be unapologetically yourself, one of the ways of going from pleaser to leader is in knowing what you're great at. And most people would think that it would be about like you spending time focused on yourself and really going through that. You'll have my support with that through what we do in the upcoming months. But we're doing something really fun with all the different pioneers out there that are out there and just really creating something right now. And that is what we call an Appreciation August. So taking some time here, and really it's just super simple. You just use the hashtag Appreciation August. That's all you have to do. But taking some time to share appreciation for others, share joy for others. And I'll be really just finding different ways to express to others that you celebrate and value who they are. Celebrate and value who they are, not even just what they did, And so taking it to that level. And the reason that I want to offer this to you and just invite you all to be a part of this is just because, again, coming from the place, I'm on this movement, I'm on this mission to bring together a truly inclusive and empowered world by celebrating and valuing our differences. We can do that right now in every single interaction that we have. And so I'm inviting you to just take the month of August to just share appreciation. Some of it might be for you to receive it yourself. I had a hard time receiving a lot of things on my end. I was like, oh, I didn't get this job. I heard this thing I heard someone say, and I repeated it. So use the month of August just to unabashedly spread some appreciation. And if you want to share it, just share it on whatever social media tool you use using the hashtag hashtag Appreciation August. There it is, back in the moment. But yeah, I did want to put that out there. And here goes a little secret.
Awesome.
The things that you find that you appreciate about others are actually the things that you appreciate about yourself.
Yes.
Your strengths. There'll be the things that you wish other people would know. And it's only going to help you navigate and own all this stuff later on. So I should have said earmuffs beforehand. You didn't hear that from me. We'll go out there, spread some joy, and take note of what you seem to notice. Take note of how you choose to share, and they'll come back to you in ways you don't even expect.
I love it, Nemo. I love it. You're just dropping so much juice tonight. This is so much in one episode. I love it. So just to recap again, right? So folks can get in on August Appreciation on Facebook and on Instagram. Yeah.
Yes.
Either or, you're there.
Yes. So I'm on Facebook, but we, as a collective unit of people, are in all the channels. Just use the hashtag. This is my first time doing it. We're gonna experiment. We're gonna see, but I'm not trying to hold back the appreciation. So hashtag Appreciation August or August Appreciation. We'll go with Appreciation August.
Yep.
And we'll find it anyway. And let's just spread some joy and learn more about ourselves in the process.
I absolutely love it. Awesome. That sounds great. I'm going to do mine as soon as we get on to day 1 of August, which is tomorrow, right? Because we've got 30 days in July. Or
31.
31. All right. So it's coming up in 2 days.
Yes,
I'll start
indeed.
my thinking.
Yes,
awesome.
Indeed.
So we'll share all those links. We'll share the hashtag just so everybody who's been watching can follow through on all the goodness that you've shared. My little final call to action for you guys is just that, you know, now that you've met Nemo, now that you know what we've got in store coming up with Nemo, and then of course we have the continuation of our Humans of Change series every week, every Monday, same time, same channel. So my call to action is make sure you're subscribed to us on YouTube. The great thing about that is that you then get, I think the default setting with YouTube is you get notifications in your inbox. It'll just let you know what's coming up, and that way you know when Nemo and I are up here next. You'll know every time our episodes are running, and you won't miss a damn thing. So make sure you do that at bit.ly/Change School TV. I will post that link as well, but you can also just hop over to YouTube and search for the Change School, and you will find us. All right, Nemo, anything else that I've missed that you want to add?
Nothing much. I just want to share some appreciation for you. So you've really been a person in my life that has actually shown me a lot of what joy can look like on a regular basis. I shared this with you right before we got on here, but I'm like, you are someone who brings energy to me. And that's something that really says something. I usually have to cultivate it on my own, but yeah, the work that you and Grace have been doing, like, it's really important stuff. I just really appreciate the way that you show up consistently. Every time I come across you, you're always on top of your game. And for that, I really appreciate you. So thank you.
Thanks, Nemo.
Thank you for this opportunity,
I'm so glad we found Nemo.
Yes, indeed. I was here the whole time.
Awesome.
Yeah. If anyone wants to reach out to me, do you mind if I leave my email address or something like that?
Yeah, please do. And I was going to post them as well, but go for it. Just
cool.
do a little holler. Yeah.
It's really simple. Nemo@empjoyment.com.
Easy peasy. I love it. Awesome. Well, happy Monday again, guys. I hope this is cheered up or just made your Monday even better. And here's to an amazing week ahead. And we will see you next week. Thanks, Nemo.
See ya. Thank you.
Bye.